The Sonic fan base low-key sucks. And actually, for as many kind-hearted and courageous, funny and sweet people you might meet, there's just as many people who are ready to take the metaphorical knife and hold it straight against your throat. For a fan base this divided to have survived this long without mauling each other to death is a genuine miracle. While this video is going to talk primarily about the general public of the fan base that I interact with, it is not representative of every single Sonic fan. I promise that some of you are right, but in the online world there are issues galore, from toxic positivity, dogpiling, and more. In this video I intend to articulate my issues with the fandom, and I ask you, the viewer, to watch the video all the way through to completion before leaving a comment. And above all else, please be civil in the comment section. No, hold on. Before we get in, hold on. See, we got the setup, y'all. Low key, y'all mess with the fit
again. Did you eat a treat right here?
I got the headset on. That's got the chains piling. We got the fit. Hold on, Louis V Sonic watch costs more than your life. Son, we got the Kendricks, LaFe's, that Shoddy Bay, the Willows. It is incredibly important that I define what exactly is toxic positivity. For that, I'm going to refer to writer Whitney Goodman. He gives the basic definition of toxic positivity by referring to the fact that it's dismissive and it shuts down the conversation. Goodman further states that toxic positivity effectively says, nope, that feeling you've been experiencing is wrong and here's why you should be happy instead. It also implies that you need a good enough reason to be sad, worried, or stressed, frustrated, and more, and it shames you for not meeting that criteria. This definition is incredibly important to everything I'm about to outline in this video. So before Twitter and other Sonic spaces take my words and completely take them out of context, please be incredibly aware that this definition is what I'm going to be referring to throughout the duration of this video. I want to make sure that is incredibly crystal clear. Toxic positivity is an issue that is not exclusive to any one community, in my personal experience. However, the issue is more prevalent in communities that, for lack of a better word, are struggling. Typically within the fandoms that suffer from these issues are fans that feels the need to defend their favorite intellectual property. And let me clarify this right now. Toxic positivity is not the same as having a positive mindset or just being a positive person overall. Again, for the sake of this video, we are using the definition that a positive mindset is a tendency to think optimistically and focus on the good in any situation. It involves approaching life's ups and downs with the expectation that things will work out even if a problem or two arises. The thing with having a positive mindset is that you have to acknowledge the negative or unfavorable emotions that you may or may not exhibit. This distinction is incredibly important, considering that I'm going to point out my issues with toxic positivity and how it mostly acts to mask the negative traits and feelings throughout the fandom. In my personal experience, I find that people who fall victim to this mindset often don't realize that they are, or attempt to ignore it, or finally just don't care enough to acknowledge it. I've seen too many examples of people talking about their potential issues with a product that are completely dismissed due to the nature of toxic positivity being present. Now, let's take a look at this in action in a fan base that I like to claim that I'm a part of if you've been watching this YouTube channel for any type of extended period. When I see these issues within the Sonic community, I sympathize with their response. Sonic Team has been known to completely break apart and abandon ideas for long periods of time, or simply just throw them away. A lot of negativity surrounding the franchise is a result of the very negative reception that the franchise has received from bad faith critics and bad faith arguments for why something in these games don't work. These negative perceptions resulted in Sega adopting the start of removing / delisting games that were deemed unfavorable by critics. Whenever Sonic doesn't quite hit the mark, Sonic Team shifts to destroying everything. The biggest example of this was during that period in the 2010s where Sonic and his co-cast of stars were ultimately absent from a vast majority of the products being released during the time. And I mean, seriously, if you weren't Sonic, Tails, Amy, or Knuckles, sayonara, buddy. We were never gonna see you again. They might as well send you to China. They might as well had Vector playing for the Shanghai Sharks, because that boy was not getting no screen time unless it was Sonic Boom. If you was Charmy, gone. Cream, gone. Vanilla, gone. Metal can hang around. He's my favorite bench warmer of all time. But regardless of that fact, that single-handedly is one of the biggest byproducts of the negative reception that Sonic and his fun cast of characters received during that Dark Ages time period. In response to this, a certain delegation of the Sonic fanbase has made the decision to ignore any negative issues, along with attempting to prevent make fun of, belittle, and alienate people who attempt to explain ideas that they perceive as negative. See, in a perfect world, both good and bad opinions should be engaged with civilly with an ability to see both sides. When I say this, I'm referring to the ability to support your opinion along with being able to, more importantly, explain and articulate yourself. I can't stand people who are not able to articulate and explain their position. This movement of anti-intellectualism, or often referred to as anti-yap, either falls itself on two types of categories. It's either one, this is the greatest thing of all time, or two, this is the worst thing of all time. Hyperbolic statements completely segment conversations into either you are 100% for something or you are 100% against something with little room for nuance in the middle. This lack of middle ground, or as I said earlier, nuance, is an issue. And when I mention being able to articulate your point, I mean going beyond that, this is me because I don't like it. See, a much better way to articulate yourself and be able to get your point across is, I find this item or this thing completely and utterly underwhelming to my expectations because of reasons X, Y, and Z. To clarify, negativity and constructive criticism are not the same thing. Spreading negativity is more along the lines of dismissing everything because it is, or because I said so. Now, spreading negativity and agenda posting are low-key two peas in the same pod. Agenda posting includes you, Sonic Forces fan. I'm sorry. And in some cases, when you're putting down other games and other products without valid reason, and when I mean valid reason, I mean reason specific to yourself, and you go down the lines of agenda posting, hey, that does fall under that category of spreading negativity, whether you like it or not. It can be funny. Sometimes the most negative people out there are low-key funny as hell. I'm not gonna cap to you. Kanye just went on a whole Twitter spiel. I was laughing at every tweet. Constructive criticism is supposed to build things. Why something is not good while offering suggestions or solutions that would improve the thing that you are criticizing. For example, I personally did not enjoy the movement present within Sonic Frontiers. Personally, I would have vastly prefer a more free-flowing system that allows for not only player expression, but the ability to maintain your speed in fun and interesting ways. Basically, I'm asking for momentum-based platforming that is not in that game. That is how I'm able to, one, articulate a problem I have with something, two, give constructive feedback. Despite having a negative opinion on something, I was able to articulate why something was underwhelming to me and how I'd like to see it improve. This is an example of constructive criticism. This especially applies to the artists within the community. Too many times do I see people in this community dismiss the efforts of people who are able to articulate and explain what does and does not work about a character design. I see a lot of people quote them with things like, this doesn't matter. And to these people, I have to ask, hold on. Are you dense, my brother? Do you lack like foresight and any meaningful intelligence? Because quite frankly, it is that deep. Hours upon hours are spent creating, tweaking, and designing. While something like that god-awful movie design is easy for the community at large to point out a design that's bad, articulate their issues with them, even more so when they can show the limitations present within each one. If you think that doesn't matter, let me ask you something, dear viewer. Do you think that if Sonic had a different design, would he be as big as he is today? I mean a meaningful change, okay? I mean like something about his eyes. I mean something about the way he looked on Sonic 1, or whether it's that, the Adventure Era. If you think a big significant change happened to that design, do you think it would be viewed the same way if we went down any one of those different timelines? I'm gonna let you sit on that one while we keep going. Now, with this in mind, let's transition into a big issue I personally have. Typically, the toxic positivity are often the biggest community accounts who often try to spread positivity above all else. When I say above all else, I mean attempting to ignore any and all issues with something in an attempt to mask negativity. This is especially true when a controversy arises. Instead of taking accountability when problems arise, these people tend to double down on spreading positivity in response to taking issues with words being said and action, among other things. But before we begin, we gotta address the elephant in the room. Y'all might have heard of the darkest side of Sonic Twitter. Okay, my last mic was pissing me off, so I had to swap mic. I'm sorry if I sound worse. But anyways, meet Zenoshima. Some people called him Sonic Twitter's biggest menace. Some people called Sonic Twitter's biggest hater. Some people called him Sonic Twitter's Let's say guy with the mustache who went to that art school. Yeah, that's a good analogy. The King Von of Sonic Twitter. Now, see, Zen has been the quote-unquote the face of everything that is wrong with Sonic Twitter. This is primarily because of their nature of posting bait, talking about the fandom, among other things. Now, to make a comparison, while Fidel could be looked at as the dude sitting in a penthouse. Nah, that's too nice. That's too nice. That comes across too suckage. You know what? We can give him an apartment in upstate New York. Yeah, that's tough. That fits, I think. See, Zen is probably more, in the case of this analogy, the individual who lives within New York. Okay, yeah, they could be in the Bronx with Miles Morales. Yeah, that works. That works. Now, I make this because it gives Zen their flowers, regardless of any issues you might have with them. I will always respect their ability to call out the very outspoken, racist, sexist, and some genuinely weird people who frequent the community. And Zen is almost always on the Federation force to hashtag get him out of there. And the reason why I make this analogy is because Fidel, as a much bigger account, which we will delve into later, kind of has a responsibility. When you kind of get up to them upper echelon, them upper standards, it's a lot harder to figure out what goes on the inner city level, the community level, okay? The Avengers are not going to respond to threats that Spider-Man deals with. You know why? Because an Avenger is not going to have the same radar that's going to pick up on a threat like Spider-Man strolling the streets. Because of the nature of Zen being a smaller account, they have the capability to respond and deal with things on a much smaller interpersonal connection, where Fidel feels like it's the whole damn army pulling up. More on that one later. Zen has stated on numerous occasions that they low-key hop onto Twitter, they tweet something out mindlessly, and they go about their day. And then sometimes that comes back, they gotta come back. The Slurp Brigade is unloaded on that. Boom, 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 boom. They gotta duck shots. They gotta duck the allegations. They gotta duck the people hurling slurs at this. And let me know, that is a huge problem. I remember a few months ago at this point, I made a video talking about a thread that Star had made talking about Maria's placement in Sonic X Shadow Generation story and how they particularly weren't a fan of the character. Yeah, some Sonic fans took it upon themselves to call them a shaboom. Like, how do you even come up with that? I've never heard that in my life. And I don't know if y'all can tell, but like, I'm an African-American male. I'm only saying African-American because that's like what they call us in America. No, but for real, like, how do you come up with that? What compels you to call somebody a racial slur just because they don't mess with a character that you like? Is that going like supposed to shake up how they feel about a character? Like, no, my brother in Christ, if anything, you're just gonna make me double down. But regardless, to get back onto the point, it's almost always sometimes in these interactions with Zen and a close comrade, right, that I see a third party walks in and decides to escalate the scenario, make the situation seems worse than it actually is, okay? It's like your mom walking into the room when you on a computer, you downloading the virus, right? And then you like getting up but your pants are falling down at the same time. Like, I don't know if y'all ever been caught with that, but like when you get up and your pants fall down at the same time your mom walks in, that's such an embarrassing situation to be. But truthfully and wholeheartedly, Zen contributes to the community in an honest and truthful way. I think being able to call out people on the front lines for whenever they're exhibiting bad behaviors, and when I mean bad behaviors, I don't mean dropping a bad take. I mean you are literally taking advantage of people in this community. I will always honest and respect that. That's real. Okay. But he's in the thumbnail. Depending on if I decide to put him in the thumbnails, because I low-key don't want to get jumped by his fans, but we gonna stand 10 toes. Yeah, we talking about Gamer's Cage, bruh. So, Mr. Games Cage, Fadel, member of Sonic Team. Before I start this section, I want to clarify that I have no personal issues with Fidel. When I mean no personal issues, I mean nothing that I hold close in my heart that I'm thinking, man, I can't wait for Fidel to slip so I can catch him off guard. Okay, I don't got no personal issue with this man. I'm talking strictly from what I've seen and interacted with the community. Okay, I've never exchanged a word with this individual. It's gonna be very important before I gotta deal with either the glazer or the slanderer allegations. Again, this is not a drama video. I want to make this incredibly clear, even though we're now in this section where I'm talking about some of the bigger people in this community. This is more of a, we'll say like a open letter. Yeah, open letter, vent, frustration post. Let's get that clear, okay? I'm not making this with the intent to boo. I don't care. Regardless, Fidel has been hit with the, we'll say, most complaints and criticisms from the community. I've seen him called a fake fan, misogynist, racist, or Twitter's least favorite. Okay, this might be the worst thing ever. This is the worst thing you could be on Twitter. Annoying. Now, for this point, I actually have had experience to Fidel years ago. I think coming up on 5 years this year. But 5 years ago, sometime in October, September, a hashtag broke advocating for the release of Persona 3 through 5 on all platforms. Fidel extrapolated and got the entire fan base to be very vocal and very loud about their want and need for Persona 4, Persona 3, and Persona 5 to release on all platforms. One of the major issues that I saw with this break free Persona movement that I saw brought up against Fidel is that, I quote, he is such a massive loser for being very vocal about wanting to convince Sega to bring the game to other modern platforms. Now, time I first heard this take from a critical simply that I didn't quite understand his frustrations, but after being far removed from the scenario, I do find myself to agree with him. By Fidel advocating for that, it led to a whole campaign of Twitter users being very vocal. While Fidel intended for it to be a one-time thing specifically on this day, this led to the fan base low-key tweaking out, and I mean tweaking out beyond belief. Okay, this led to the fan base to any statement in any regards demanding. Okay, they were demanding. If you remember King Goomba low-key came off that movement by knocking on people's doors. They could be Sega Atlas could be posting about literally anything else, and it was boom, Japanese forms, okay, specifically with the intent, okay, to gauge what the Japanese audience wants. And you got a bunch of Westerners coming in there and messing everything up, kicking things over, and like boom, where's Persona? I need Persona. Being generally not only ungrateful but unruly and quite real fucking annoying. Okay, now putting all that aside, because I understandably do not think that it is fair to fault Fidel for that, but it is definitely an unintended consequence. Note that one, because that's going to come back later. And while looking at it in an isolated event, and also to summarize my feelings in general about Fidel, I think that his existence is overall a net positive for the Sonic fan base, but also being able to act as something that's representative of it. Fidel, on several occasions, from the release of Sonic Prime to scummy DLC practices, has been very critical about his issues with both Sega and Nintendo franchises. Remember, to that toxic positivity definition we mentioned way in the beginning, that in order for it to be true toxic positivity, you have to be masking over the negative flaws, okay? Acting as if they don't exist. Having an inability to display a negative or a positive connection to a piece of media, product, or however you want to slice it. And Fidel has demonstrated that he is able to disagree with things, okay? Even though he is a self-proclaimed Sonic slurper, if something's trash to him, he gonna say it's fucking trash. Yeah, let's keep going. So, the simple fact that he's able to talk about his frustrations and disappointment from the franchise he enjoys, he loves to death and back, is already enough to definitively say that he is not a proponent of this wave of toxic positivity. Fidel, at his worst and most annoying and the most articulated Twitter stance, is that he is a Sonic glazer who would ride the franchise to hell and back. He's a shaboy boy. He's like the truth getting the damn 2 foot long glizzies, bro. Why did he do that? Why did he do that? Someone please explain to me, why did the truth get the 2 foot long glizzies? But regardless, and for some people, that ability to support the franchise that they've grown up with so loyally is looked at as a bad thing. Okay, they hate that shit. But some people see that as a reason to love Fidel, that no matter how hard things get, no matter how bad things get, he's always going to attempt to be the shining light. The light that's in the skies above the stars, from whatever the quote from Gurren Lagann is. And personally, what I think is a true issue that surrounds / clouds Fidel is that it's the fan base that is glued to him, right? when you have a group of people who look at big accounts like they're god figures or higher level beings, which means they should not fall into the same potholes that a normal, regular Joe Schmo, Roger Craig, Jason should fall into. Now, I mentioned something in my last video that I said that we need to have a conversation about y'all's weird relationship with Fidel. Yeah, today that day, brethren. While Fidel, in my personal opinion, is not a part of the huge wave of toxic positivity within the fan base, he ends up becoming an unintentional Trojan horse for it. When you have a following as large as Fidel, a lot of the time when he engages in certain conversations with people, his followers will interpret things as a personal attack and feel the need to swing both tooth and nail to make sure that they defend their god of sorts from anything that could be represented as a single slight towards Fidel. However, it rarely usually is Fidel himself. When Fidel strikes, it's the army coming. It's the gang coming. It's like, you know, when you fight a boss and like the boss itself is not actually that bad, but it's because you gotta fight like 18 billion other people. An example, spoilers for Rebirth. When you find that last section of Sephiroth, you know the one where he's like, the end is nigh, and he does the evil turntable move. The turntable move ain't the problem. It's the fucking whispers jumping up from the ground and shit. Like you gotta play fucking whack-a-mole and shit. There's no counterplay. That's why that shit fucking blows. Video on that, maybe. Right? But however, it's usually never just Fidel himself. See, when you get struck by one person, okay, that's not too bad. You gotta deal with one person that's fans, but usually, depending on the topic, you're not just getting hit by Fidel. No. You're getting hit by Fidel and his cronies. It's like if Goku pulled up and he was trying to run the ones with Captain Ginyu, and then all of a sudden, all of the Ginyu Force were like, nah, bro, we want you too. Now, you went from fighting a one-on-one to a 5v1. Okay, and keep in mind, most people in that group, in that circle, they all got diehards with him on the same level of Games Cage. So not only are you fighting Games Cage 1, you're fighting Games Cage 2 through 8 and their whole cronies. So now you're in a situation, you're like Zack in Final Fantasy 7. You're holding the fucking Buster Sword. You're like, I'll live to protect my honor as a soldier, while you're getting ratioed in your DMs telling you to go off yourself like that. Like, what am I supposed to do at that point? I remember when the story broke about Sonic team members having the slightest interest in wanting to make a remake of 06. This person on Twitter just voiced that they were not particularly interested in a potential remake because they did not like the current direction of the franchise. They weren't a fan of Ian Flynn's writing. If the game were to be remade by Sonic team, it would end up removing some of the same things that made them enjoy the game in its original release. From there, Fidel quote turned into one of his close friends, labeling the person as fucking miserable. Sonic fans, bro, you know, they're so miserable, they're so lame, they're so whack. It's fucking always some with them folk, them uppity folk. And yeah, when you got Mr. Peace, Love, and Positivity in your replies calling you miserable, right? Even if it's not him directly, if it's one of his friends and he's co-signing it with a reply, what do you think is gonna happen? I'll give you 60 seconds. Is it A? You're gonna have a nice fun time. Is it B? You're gonna have a miserable experience. Is it C? You're gonna get a bunch of people jumping on you. Or is it D? Alright, time's up. And the answer to that question is, I don't fucking know! Cause it's all of the above! Now, from what I've gathered from that post aftermath is that Fidel attempted to apologize to bro. Allegedly, I say allegedly because I'm not looking through a stream clip to go find for some shit, bro, from like that long ago. Okay, Twitch don't even keep clips that long. I'm not looking through a VOD, bro. But from what I was able to scavenge, Fidel at least attempted to apologize to bro. But overall, people just moved on to boost the situation. The only reason why I felt compelled to mention this is that for any normal content creator, an incident like this would simply be swept past, you know, a one and done type thing. But when you are Fidel, when you are the peace and positivity guy, whenever you have anything that is like the slightest chink on your armor, it's gonna sit there and it's gonna hold. And it serves as a contradiction to the person that you are, especially the person that you want to be in the sake of presenting a narrative, okay? Now, to play devil's advocate for like less than 10 seconds, I don't think Fidel, or in this case, any big content creator, are malicious in their conversations that they have with smaller accounts, okay? But intentions don't always equal the consequences of the escalation of the situation of itself. That's a word vomit. Ew. sometimes the intentions don't always equal the results of an action, okay? But then again, on the other side, saying if I'm Fidel in this case, when you're a large account, are you just not allowed to be on Twitter like a normal person? Are you not allowed to engage in community-wide conversation? You know, as Sonic's titular peace, love, and positivity guy, the only solution to anything like this is that you're forced to have to take a step back every time you're about to reply to a tweet and sit and analyze and be like, is what I'm saying going to cause this person to get dogpiled? And sometimes you might think you in the clear, only for some people to get misinterpreted and get the wrong idea, and all of a sudden it's like, fuck, shit gets spooky every day in October. My torpedo got a torch with a blower, JK. Now you got the whole clan rally in your replies and shit. It's like, bro, man. But at the same time, while I do understand and I can sympathize with Fidel being in that position, it is ultimately his burden to carry, being the hype guy, okay? But I will be open and transparent when I say that yes, there has been times when Fidel has personally asked his fan base to be chill, don't spread hate and harassment. Whether you are dealing with a fan base of his size and his age range, it can be hard to prevent smaller accounts from being trampled on. But let's just say that's not the only issue with these big accounts. Now, if you, like me, were around the block during the hype cycle of Sonic Frontiers, you might remember when that IGN preview was released. The move was one of the most damaging moves that Sonic Team, Sega, interchangeable, who cares, made during the hype cycle of the game. A huge chunk of the internet ripped that preview to shreds, and rightfully so. One of the largest content creators advocated that their opinion should be heard, along with the many fans who were dissatisfied with the final release or leading up to the final release of Sonic Frontiers. They wanted to make sure that Sega knows our opinions above all else. However, emphasis on the allegedly, after receiving a promotion from Sega and the opportunity to do some promo art from them, their tone changed. Suddenly, they found themselves in a situation where it might have been seen to be more advantageous to flip positions. Instead of being critical of the game, they decided to be more positive up till its release and after. For this, I use the word allegedly because it's impossible for me to definitively say if this is exactly how the event transpired with the creators in mind, because, hey, sometimes you do flip your opinion as more things are shown, okay? But what I can determine after the release of Frontiers is that the fanbase took it upon itself to dogpile any review that may or may not have agreed with the overwhelming review score from critics that said the game was alright to good. Side note, while I cannot say the same for others, I would like to interject a clip from the Cage himself about the topic of being paid by Sega.
Here's the thing. Multiple things. One, some people think I'm paid by Sega. I wish! Where's my bag? You know what I mean? Where's my bag? I haven't got a dime. I don't get shit, all right? Sometimes I get cool merch, that's pretty cool. I've never gotten paid, you know what I'm saying? I've suffered through Sonic Heroes, enough. Fuck this little guy, all right? But, no, genuinely, I mean, like, look, I was fucking sticking around, right? My friend was saying that, you know, he was addressing how people were saying loops are useless, right? And yeah, maybe I should have worded it better, but that's why I deleted it, because I was trying to say, like, really inherently, for the most part, for me, I just think loops are a fun little sensation, you know? I know some people like to use them to do the 3/4 jump or as I get that. For me, they're like a funny little thing. They're like cute, they're cool, they're raw. I love when I get to them. They mean the world to me. I love the little loops, you know? So when I say they're useless, I'm just like, well, to me, right, really, their only use is a sensation. Even though it's wrong, I still really like them, you know? And, bro, of course I dick ride Sonic. I fucking love Sonic with my life. Yes, I'm telling you, factually, I will dick ride this character until I'm dead, as I dick rode him from beginning to end. I always will, all right? I don't give a shit about Sega. I don't give a shit about... I care about Sonic. I love Sonic the Hedgehog. Everybody knows this. That's why I'm here where I am. Because I give a shit too much about this character and this world. And there's plenty of things I don't like. I don't like Sonic Lost World. I'm very open about it. I despise anything Sonic Boom. I don't care. But I also don't care what you like. I also like what I like. Bro, but of course, I will always dick ride Sonic, but that's because it's what I want to do, all right? I love Sonic the Hedgehog. I love those characters. I love that world. I love that gameplay style. There's plenty of times of Sonic games drive me fucking crazy, but you know what? I still want to play it because I love it. It makes me happy, bro. I'm a happy, chill guy, all right? Now, if somebody, right, you know, thinks it's because it's a fake thing, I guarantee you've never watched anything I've ever done ever. I'm telling you right now, and you know this, anyone who thinks that this is a fake thing or the fake hype thing, where you've never ever watched anything Sonic related I've ever done. I'm telling you that right now. And they know that. Because really, you could go watch any re-review I've done. You can go watch any stream I've done when I've argued with my friends. You can see times I've appraised them, times that these games have driven me crazy. Like, it really is that. And people that are the people that are like, oh, well, you did this for Sega, so of course you're gonna be nice. No, bro, half the people that Sega likes, half their videos are them making shit about Sonic that like is like, what's wrong with this thing? If you watch Sam Procrastinate's Sonic Superstars review, you would think he fucking hates Sonic, and he's literally doing videos for the Sonic Symphony. So two things can be together. But yeah, no, it's okay. I mean, it is what it is. The normal people get it. The not normal people don't get it. It be what it be.
As mentioned earlier with this clip in mind, Sega may not be paying Fidel directly, but it is highly likely that he benefits from staying removed from drama. One does not have Bandai Namco in their Twitch chat casually, okay? It has been clear that Fidel has an image he must uphold that prevents him from commenting on certain situations. This is clear with the Mike Pollock things that have been going on. Fidel outlines that he does not support his comments on a Twitch stream. From my interpretation and to make a guess, causing a storm about a situation with Sega more than likely has no legal grounds to remove someone for their First Amendment protected rights, causing a shitstorm or a big Twitter movement by endorsing a hashtag will simply cause more problems than it would actually solve.
It's not like people like some of my friends and stuff that it's like, I don't know, I don't feel comfortable like hashtag campaigning. That's kind of like, I don't know how to feel or do about anything about that. But I have no like problem saying like the guy fucking sucks and I hope they replace him. You know what I mean? But I don't like someone with the amount of followers I have. I feel like me doing that like puts me in a really, really weird position. So that's why people are like, oh, can some people do the hashtag? I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna do that, but I will blatantly tell you right here and now, like, fuck that guy, and I hope they replace him. You know what I mean?
However, I will admit this is another funny parallel considering his support and endorsement of the Break Free Persona movement. Why did I say Freeman? Ugh. Anyways, back to the video. Previously, about that same past content creator, this led to the creator quote retweeting a Nintendo Life article discussing their thoughts on the game. The quote read something along the lines of, they rated it lower than Sonic Forces. That's all you need to know. Now, with this, I would like to transition into my next talking point. See, Sonic and video game critics didn't exactly have the best transition from the Genesis to the modern day. It goes without saying that a vast majority of online reception to Sonic was overwhelmingly mean, spiteful, and biased against the Blue Blur. This caused This caused a scab between Sonic fans and relationship between these major publications and themselves. Even to this very day, if a big publication dares to give Sonic product an underwhelming score, they are jumped and treated like war criminals. For this video, I would like to highlight two examples of this event occurring. As I mentioned in the last section, the quote retweet from said larger creator caused an uprising dogpiling the original post. If you remember what I said in the section about Fidel, every large content creator commenting on something adds more fuel to the fire. Now, the most common thing that this was mentioned in a majority of the fans' issues with the article was that the score was lower than Sonic Forces. That was it. That was the only point of contention with the review, is that it got a lower score, the game in question being Sonic Frontiers, compared to Sonic Forces, which at the time was previously regarded as the worst Sonic game since Sonic Boom, depending on who you ask. It's been about 7-8 years since Forces came out. I'm not confident that a majority of the people who saw that tweet even read the article in which the reviewer mentioned the many issues with the game and the many things that they enjoyed about the game. If there is anything that Sonic fans need to understand, is that a majority of major reviews are not predetermined based on the game. They are typically the opinions of the person reviewing the item. The simple answer for why Sonic Forces got a higher score is simply because it was written by two different people. The reviewer in question is experienced in working with Nintendo Life and has a background in journalism. They are professional. A big reason why major journalism publications will make sure that they are hiring professionals is usually, emphasis on usually, able to articulate what works and what does not work about a game to their opinions. Along with that, each reviewer are supposed to maintain a degree of professionality with the product that they are engaging with. Now, has this always been the case, especially with Sonic? No, but there is a reason why they consistently choose to get qualified people in the room and not a random YouTuber who more than likely is already going to like or dislike simply because of their affiliation and dedication to the franchise. This is not a diss towards Fidel, but if I'm a major publication, the last person I want to give a review on a game is going to be Fidel, because they're almost always going to inherently have some type of bias to say things are better than what they actually are. Even if they're going to sit there and they're going to tell you, no, I'm not, I'm an unbiased individual, that's cap. That's lies, but we'll get into that later. My second example, I'd like to mention the IGN review of Sonic 3, the movie. Again, the same issue applies here. The reviewer mentions that he thought a lot of the movie was fun and enjoyable, only to give a review score suggesting that the movie is an overall 6 out of 10. A score 1 point above the mediocre or mid score from the IGN score system. This review in question caused a large amount of discourse within the fan base, especially with the line that the movies have only gotten better. While at the time, I understood Fran's frustration with the review, upon looking deeper into the review, I realized something. See, the IGN review has an extensive background as working as a film writer and editor for over the last 10 years, meaning that their opinion is in some part inspired by the potential hundreds of thousands of hours they spent working at their job in the background. Now, the opinion of a diehard Sonic fan who was simply judging if the movie is good for Sonic, again, If I'm going to have someone review a product, I'm going to have someone who is probably going to be a stand-in for the general audience, the general public, okay? I'm not going to get Fidel to review a product for a major publication because he's a super diehard and he more than likely is going to be predetermined to support whatever product is going to be released simply because of that. Let me make that clear again, okay? Now, while this review of Sonic 3 is not perfect, I still think that with the updated revisions to the video, it would have benefited by explaining what prevented the movie from getting a higher score. Was the movie just solid? Was there a section in the movie that just didn't work for them? Things like that. But these are questions that a rational person would ask. The Sonic community at large has not cared to look deeper into things. I don't know if this is because of the nature of having a younger audience or fan base or other issues, but examples like this, you hear a huge vocal chunk of the community talk about how critic scores do not matter. They're not meant to be trusted until they match your beliefs. Notice how Sonic X Shadow received a 9 out of 10. The community was ecstatic. They only cared that that game received high praise because of the extensive history of IGN being considered unfavorable and because it had finally decided to spark a different era within the franchise. Another thing I'd like to mention is just like Sonic 3, when Sonic was up in the domestic box office, they found it funny to pick a one-sided fight, a one-sided beef, claiming that they were going to demolish and finish Mufasa, only for Mufasa to catch back up and utterly gap the Hedgehog. All of a sudden, now it's, hey, we got the better movie. Hey, we left more of an impression, okay? We're finding these superficial things that for a long time within the fan base that we thought didn't ultimately matter, but now they matter because it has swung back. The pendulum clock has swung back in the fan base's favor, so now they feel as if they have a little bit of an ego to start talking shit. And a good example of this would be Drake fans. When recently Drake and Party Next Door's album was revealed to have a streaming day that was higher than Kendrick Lamar's after the Super Bowl. Now all of a sudden Drake is back. What do you mean, bro? Fuck is you talking about? That same ideology that numbers don't matter until it supports my agenda. But let's move on a little bit further. For this final section, I would like to touch on a problem of criticism within the franchise. As I mentioned at the start of the video, for those of you who remember, there's a clear difference between negativity and critique. Something that a lot of people shockingly don't know is that a critique actually refers to a detailed analysis and assessment of something, especially a literary one. An analysis that is good should be able to point out exactly what is good, bad, or ugly in this case. A good critique is not going to be just you crapping all over something. I make this distinction clear because Sonic fans get really defensive when someone has a negative opinion about a game, and I have seen my limit with the discussion about around Sonic Frontiers. A lot of toxic positivity within this fan base is at an all-time high with the release of Sonic Frontiers. For some, the story of a directionless game that Sega threw somebody on and that person having to steer the ship away from the iceberg is a story of motivation, hope, and triumph. This is especially true when you analyze the lyrics of One Way Dream. Some view that song at the end of the game as a heartfelt note from Sonic Team, a declaration that they intend to push further, hit higher highs, and be overall better. For many people, all these things combined push the idea that Sonic Frontiers saved the franchise, and that you should not be able to point out any of the things in this game that did not work for you because of that notion. These Sonic fans like the idea of Sonic Frontiers in concept more than they like the actual gameplay or the other important things that comes to making a game. Let me make one thing clear. The term objectivity and bias has been completely taken out of context within these spaces. It is objectively impossible for anyone to review a product without any bias. Humans are always going to have a small trace and amount of bias present in any decision they make. This is even more so true for the term objectively. An objective fact falls more along the lines of the sky is blue typically during the day. Sonic has blue fur. Sonic Generations has a remaster that is on modern consoles. The reason why these are all objective statements is because they are facts devoid of bias or an opinion that can manipulate them. Your opinion or take on a video game is always going to have to take into account your past life experiences. The only way to combat this is to acknowledge them and attempt to figure out how they might shape your opinion. Having past experience with Sonic games will influence your opinion over a recently released Sonic product because your taste is influenced by your past experiences with the franchise. Asking people to attempt to remain unbiased and be objective is quite literally impossible. But again, y'all not gonna listen, but that is truthfully how it is. You can ask someone to minimize or try to be aware of their biases and try to be an objective, but ultimately it is an fruitless effort, because at the end of the day, that is something that is completely and utterly impossible. Conclusion, but low key, it don't matter. I remember when I made my video talking about the double standards within the community, one of y'all reached out to me on Twitter. They mentioned that I thought, and they took issue with the way I went about articulating my points. They suggested that nobody would be interested in hearing me out. Now, no hate to that original commenter, but let me make one thing very clear to y'all. If there is one portion of the video I want you to lock in for, it is this part right here. I make this video to point out some of the lighter issues and criticisms that I have for the community, but truthfully, I already know that this is a worthless effort. Simply put, y'all ain't gonna change. You will all continue to double down and fight against each other because it is impossible. Always, despite this fact, I will always continue to call out the bad actors and things I disagree with while being true to myself and retaining the same energy when appropriate. If you want to know a solution to the toxic ways of Twitter, might I suggest you make a space, a Discord, a group chat, or organization. Create safe spaces for those in your community. Creating these spaces where people can engage in conversation without needing to be fearful on if people are going to be called slurs, attempting to look at big accounts like Fidel, Sam Procreates, and whatever Sonic tuber is a waste of time. Trying to mold these big creators into mouthpieces to repeat what you have to say is a useless endeavor. While it is true that these accounts do have a certain air of power and ability to platform people, the only way to resist against it and the only way to survive it is to create groups of people who will support you, both offline and online. This takes effort, no doubt. You are going to have the occasional bad apples, the person who is evil, among other things, but that's part of the game. As long as you are able to weed out the things within the grass and that community you build, that garden you conjure, will be worth it in the end. If you are one of the big creators I mentioned in this video, if anything I said struck a nerve with you, I do apologize. But I didn't write this video to be nice. I made this video to be honest, to be truthful, and to voice my opinions in the most authentic way possible to me. And if that's the issue with you, then I hope you simply just decide to walk the other way. To the greater Sonic community, stop feeling the need to come to bat for people you don't personally know. Stop idolizing people who have a bigger following than you. The Twitter algorithm loves to see interactions, whether they are good or bad. I think the easiest way to avoid having to come in contact with people who are going to be outwardly negative, who are people who are going to outwardly harass you, is a combo of the block and mute button. Or better yet, hey, maybe you'd be better off on a different platform. I've been on and off in Blue Sky, and I can say that, hey, that place is a lot more chill, a lot more calmed down, a lot less bullying. Either you're for something or you're against something. But that's just in my experience. As for myself, I would like to remind the people of the purpose of this channel. This channel existed for me to voice my opinions across a wide variety of things. With that in mind, I am not a Sonic tuber. I am not exclusively tied to this blue bastard, nor do I want to be. I'm simply a guy who loves to talk about anything that I'm passionate in. Nothing more than that. Even if the topic is good or the worst thing ever, if anything, I hope that was apparent from this video. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed your watch. Remember, keep yourself safe, along with your friends and family, and have yourself a damn good one. That was a good finale. Can I like sit down now? Dude, I can't see shit, bro. My fucking contacts are cooked.